It's all about planning. It's all about anticipation. You shouldn't be surprised by something coming to you. Yes, of course, you can always have a curveball coming to you. It always happens. This is the business in general, life in general is about. There are always things happening that you didn't see coming. But have a plan, stick to your plan, and be ready to flex and to adjust the plan if you hit a bump or if you hit a wall. I mean, if you hit a bump, sometimes you can go through the bump, it hurts, and then you said, or you go around the bump. Sometimes you have a wall, and you said that if you know that wall is coming, you are responsible if you didn't anticipate and find a plan B, C, and D to be able to go around.
Okay, welcome back to the Rabasha Family Podcast. I have a very, very special guest in the building, Raphaël Ognar, Transformational Biotech Executive, CEO and a visionary, biotech leader with over 27 years, 3 decades of global experience driving innovation, growth, and patient impact across oncology, hematology, and cell gene therapy. He's a proven CEO, board chair, and company builder with a track record of founding and scaling cutting-edge immuno-oncology platforms, securing strategic funding, building elite scientific teams, and delivering breakthrough through therapeutics from concept to clinic. He combines scientific rigor with commercial acumen, leveraging dual MSc and MBA background to build differentiated strategies, forge investor confidence, and lead complex organizations through inflection points. Definitely been recognized for decisive leadership, cross-functional orchestration, and a relentless focus on execution and value creation. He is on a mission and a vision at the moment, and we are here to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much, Raphaël, for joining us.
Thank you for this very kind introduction and a very emphatic one. I appreciate and I see how much importance I dedicated in my life to what I'm doing. So it's always great to be part of such a nice conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So can you take us a little bit back? Take us, for the audience who are tuning into, all platforms at the moment, what has been your mission and vision over all these 3 decades?
Marketing is all about storytelling. Dad, when we first started this business, what did you say to me?
I said, yes, we do a podcast.
Why?
Because I want to tell our story.
Why?
Because I know the story builds a legacy.
Builds a legacy. And that is exactly what we do here at ETS Rabasha Media. We market your story on social media so you could build a legacy for those who come after you, to build your business and your personal brand.
Yeah, follow us on our platform. Go on our website, etsrabashamedia.com.
This is about legacy, and it is about showing up on social media every single day, because if you don't show up, your competition will.
Yes, so I'm a scientist by training, but interestingly, I never worked as a scientist. When I finished my master's in science, I moved to do an MBA, and my MBA gave me a first job in marketing in a large pharma company. And I spent a decade growing in marketing, from operational marketing, launching drugs, to global marketing, responsible of a blockbuster oncology drugs. And very early on, I kind of hit the oncology field and find it not only extremely interesting because of the overall unmet need that we have. Everybody's affected by cancer. I got somewhat lucky that in my family we didn't really get so many cancer cases, but I have a ton of friends and people around that all got affected. And I'm sure you talk to everybody around you. It's something that is unfortunately part of the life of everybody. And I was seeing the science was so incredible, and the evolution of technologies to try to beat cancer was really going on a pace that I was finding really, as a scientist, very impressive. And when I was doing that marketing thing, I loved it, but I was thinking, man, the power of marketing, if you have great treatment, can be really strong. And so very quickly, I moved out of marketing. After a decade, I moved out of marketing and went into drug development. And this is where it hit my head. I realized how complicated it is to bring from an idea or a concept all the way to approval and then commercialization, with so many things that need to happen, such a complex path, and not a cheap one either. And I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be able to be part of, find ways to improve the way we develop drugs, but also improve the chance of success of bringing new treatments for those cancer patients, because cancer doesn't wait. It keeps hitting people one after the other. After this period, I went into more the strategic field where I had the chance of working with big senior leaders of large pharma or large biotech companies, sitting at the C-suite table, not being C-suite, but sitting there and being involved in strategy with them. It gave me a very good understanding of how we can steer a ship, how we can influence the decision to move science forward. And of course, if the science doesn't work, the science doesn't work. But when it works, you want to be sure that you're not the one responsible of not crossing the finish line because of process issues or other issues that are not related to the biology. So this was an incredible learning. And after many years doing that work, I felt ready to go on my own and to start getting into the entrepreneurship side, where I started as a consultant with my own consulting, focusing on early stage biotech, helping early stage entrepreneurs that most of them are scientists, not knowing anything else but the science in some way, and helping them getting to their next step so they could advance. And through that process, I met my initial co-founder, Dr. Henry Bale, which is a brilliant scientist from academia, but also with a biotech experience as a scientist. And we came with an idea together of our specific engineering of immune cells to try to bring the next generation of cell therapy through a off-the-shelf approach, which will make it immediately accessible and at a significantly lower cost than what is done today. And that's kind of the logical closing of the loop for me to finally build my own technology that I invented with Dr. Bale, and that we kind of trying now to bring into the next phase, which will be getting an IND to be allowed to start in the clinic.
You talked a little bit at the start of the link of marketing around what made you saw that gap or that opportunity around marketing and being able to connect it to such a mission.
Well, interestingly, the story started with a big disappointment when I was a scientist working on my PhD. And I was doing pitches, little kind of work on the side to try to pay the bills, like using some of my mice, particularly my control group mice and things like this, to try to kind of answer some question that some pharmaceutical companies were asking. And I had a meeting with a head of marketing of a pharma that doesn't exist anymore, by the way. So I'm not going to name it. And the person was so manipulative in what he wanted to see from my data that it's actually the reason why I said I want to go into my pharma marketing, because I don't want to have people like this trying to tweak data to make them saying what they want to say. And I really realized what is the power of messaging when you use scientific data and you message it properly, how impactful it can be. It also means if you message it improperly, it can also be impactful. So you have to be really careful. And as a scientist, I said, I want to be sure that I'm part of the ones that are going to ensure that the right thing is provided. It was kind of a naive thing from a young man, coming out of science and trying to look at the world. But it really gave me that bug of saying, I want to be working in the pharma industry because they have the power to change things for patients, but I want to be sure that it's done the right way. And so in a naive way, that's what triggered my focus on working for pharma and biotech, and started to make me always focusing on the scientific evidence as a foundation, and then how do we bring it up there for people to know about it, to believe in it, and to deliver towards it.
So the question I'm trying to see is how do you get people to believe in it?
Well, we live in a world of science and data. So you have to start by generating the data to make people believing that, okay, what you say is true. And because we invented our technology with my co-founder, we actually didn't come out of academia. So we didn't have, the big stamp of whatever big academic center spinning off a technology. It was just two crazy people that decided to file an IP and build the evidence needed to validate that IP. Now, fast forwarding, we started this in 2022 when we started to open our lab. We put one scientist in the lab and we started to generate data to check that our concept was working. If you look like 4 years after, our first IP has been granted in the US. So that's for us an already great achievement, because it means that the core technology is validated in the US and we are expanding to other countries around the world with it. And we have a second IP that is more on the what I call the secret sauce, that is what makes our engineering even stronger and better and more differentiated. And hopefully that could make a difference. Now, most of the things today still remains to be proven because we are early stage, but the early data that we have generated are extremely promising and are validating our hypothesis. So the thing is that we have to continue to generate those data and then continue to communicate around it and tell people, listen, look, it is working at this stage. Now we need to validate the next stage, ensure that the safety is going to be fine, ensure that we have more proof of concept in vivo across different tumors, and then get to the clinic once we have an authorization to do so. So it's always a data, messaging, confirmation, and then you move to the clinic where will be the moment where we're going to really know if we have a drug.
And so throughout this time and, the mission and the vision that you're building now and what we're facing with cancer, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had? What's been the hardest thing, that sometimes has kept you up at night?
There's so many things that kept me up at night. It's, I would say the credibility aspect in the beginning is challenging because a lot of people say where the technology is coming from. Because we don't answer whatever big label, there's kind of a skepticism that, okay, but what are those guys? Why they created this? Like, is it legit? And I get it. I understand. It's the academic centers have decades of research, experience, expertise. They have the best scientists in the world, whatever. So it makes sense. Well, my co-founder, Henry Bell, is a former academic. He was a professor at Baylor College of Medicine. He has done incredible work. He ended up being no longer academic and decided to go embark with me on this, but he has the pedigree and the DNA, I would say. Our scientists are former MD Anderson scientists and other groups actually than MD Anderson also coming from those. So from a science perspective, the people are there. But we need to prove our point. And sometimes I felt that we had to prove even more than anybody else because the technology didn't come out of academia. That was a little bit, I would not say frustrating, but sometimes, you feel like I wish they would ask the same question to everybody that are asking us. But then we proved our point. So, I said that the first great success is in 2023, in vitro proof of concept in leukemia got accepted as an oral presentation at ASH, the American Society of Hematology, which is the largest hematologic meeting in the world. And for a small biotech to get an oral presentation with in vitro data, it's not an easy bar to reach. And we got it. And it was kind of the proof that first our science was good, but was also intriguing and interesting to the community because it's a peer-reviewed process. And it means that the ASH community thought that there was something interesting to further look at. And then we tried to continuously do our work and submit to all those conferences because it's a way of being challenged by the peer review process and say, hey, yes, we think that what you're doing is interesting. We're going to allow you to present. So we had multiple posters in major conferences, and it always allows us to raise the bar and try to do better with very limited resources, which is the second thing that I would say is probably difficult, is that when I started this project in cell therapy is when the bubble of cell therapy burst, is when everything collapsed. Valuation of the public biotech in cell therapy crashed. There were several, I would not say several, few failures that made investors losing confidence in the overall technologies. The fact that the current technologies that are approved are clearly not profitable. The cost is too high. Only 20% or 30% of patients that should be eligible are really receiving the therapy, leaving a lot of patients that should be receiving those new technologies unable to do it. So a lot of things that were like making maybe people losing confidence that this is a business that could be worth going after. From a science perspective, it is impactful. But maybe we also overpromised. Maybe we promised the moon and couldn't reach it. And even if we didn't get to the moon, we went close enough that many patients had benefit from it. And it was a little bit frustrating that people were not seeing that anymore. And so I was not expecting that I will develop this in the time where it's the biggest crisis for cell therapy and where investors are walking away from it. And so the big difficulty today is to find the right partners to move this forward, because a lot of people decided to no longer invest in early stage. They want to see clinical data, meaning they want the proof that it's going to be somewhat approved before they put money. And I'm 2 to 2.5 years away from the clinic. So I still need some support now to get to the clinic. And that's the big steep road that we are on, because most investors prefer to wait until we get to the clinic before they put money. So that's part of the thing that now I need to find not just money, I need to find partners. And we have really switched gears a few months ago, when we, after a big setback on an investment that we were supposed to receive, and having a lead investor bailing at the date of signing the deal, leaving us in a pretty bad limbo, we decided that now it's time to find partners. And if we have partners, we will have money, in some way, like the money will follow the partnership. So we have started to really deploy more on the partnership focus. We're still fundraising, of course, because we still need cash to do this. But the big goal for my upcoming JP Morgan is to meet as many potential partners, to identify maybe one or two that could take on a piece of our technology, on one asset, or eventually go for co-development with what we're doing.
Wow. So it's really interesting how you really defined it as that partnership, someone alongside you guys to be able to take it to the next level.
Well, it's also because we have a technology that could be applied to, I would say, almost all cancer. The target that we are focusing on is expressed in over 50% of cancer cells across all type of cancers. So the field is actually ginormous, and it's obviously too much for us to tackle. So we selected the one that we believe are either highest unmet need, medically speaking, or also the highest chance of being successful, because our goal is to be successful. So I may not tackle the hardest cancer up front, but if I can find a high unmet need in a specific disease, so we have identified some diseases in colorectal cancer, for example, some bladder cancer, some esophageal and gastric cancer, where there is really not so many treatments available today beyond chemotherapy, and where we have some very strong signals. So we could be starting this. AML also, it's still a very deadly disease, and there are a lot of people doing development, but there are a lot of people also discontinuing their development in AML and focusing on other things, because it's not a big business in terms of a potential outcome in revenue. So for me, the partnership is the way of de-risking what we're doing, but also going faster. Because if you have someone that has bigger muscles, you can have your answers faster. And what is key in our business is not to be, hold. You want to have answers, whether the answer is yes or no, but you need to have an answer to know, do I continue in that direction? Or if it's not the right direction, I kill and I pivot to another one that has a better chance to work. Because with so many different cancer we can go after, we just need to turn on and off the ones that we believe are the most likely to see a result, so we can bring this drug to patients that will be in need. So that's why the partnership makes sense, because let's say someone is very strong in the colorectal field, a pharmaceutical company, a biotech, or even an academic center, and they say, yeah, we want to double down on the colorectal. Well, let's work together. Let's find a way to do it together, and we can make that happen. That could be an approach that we have. And of course, it doesn't mean that we cannot advance without partners, but I think it is, in today's world, it is probably our best bet to go to the finish line.
And for the people out there who may not know much about cancer, how does someone get cancer? What has been the main cause of it, and why has it taken so long? Why has it been there's such time for there to be an official, let's say, cure for cancer?
Yeah, so I'm not a cancer scientist. I'm gonna disclose that. I've been working in cancer for many years. Like we used to say, I know enough to be dangerous or to say something that could have an impact, but I'm clearly neither an oncologist nor a cancer scientist. I do share my life with a medical oncologist that is a brilliant person working in the business also, and that also gives me some very interesting insight. But that's kind of I'm surrounded by people specialized in oncology. Few things to go kind of really basic on the fact. Cancer is unfortunately a natural evolution that normal cells can have. Most of the cancers are now identified to be related to mutations, and mutations are kind of a natural process or an induced process that have cells having their genetic code changed because of sometimes in the case of some skin cancer, it can be because of exposure to UV like too much exposure to UV. UV radiation triggers mutations on the DNA of the melanocytes and make them becoming aberrant and triggering melanoma. Very simplified view. It's a little more complex than this, but whatever. Or for smokers, sometimes they could have a mutation that could be leading to some aberrant cells that will become tumorous. And the fact that you smoke brings chemicals and all this that can accelerate that mutational process, and that can lead to some form of lung cancer. All things like this can come together. So the reason why I don't believe in the concept of cure of cancer is that every type of cells can become a cancer in some way. And so I don't think you can cure cancer as an entity, but you can cure some cancers if taken at a specific time with the proper approach. And we have very great successes in the past 20, 30 years. The number of patients that we consider are cured, or I will call them cancer-free, meaning they will be able to live without their cancer and they will probably die of something else. Or they may have another type of cancer that could come that has nothing to do with the one that they got initially, but that could be because of another type of mutation or another type of degeneration of their cells. So that's why it's so complicated, because there is not one cancer. There are thousands of different cancers, different subtypes with very unique specificities. And so the one size fits all treatment doesn't work. It can work temporarily. So that's the concept of chemotherapy, for example. Chemotherapy is what we call a cytotoxic. So to make it simple, it's a poison to kill the cells. But chemotherapy also kills the good cells because it's not very selective. Now we have found ways of being more selective in the way we do, because we have found technologies to be very specific on targeting the cancer cells and limiting the attack of normal cells. That's the secret of what we do. And our approach with cell therapy is even more targeted to target only the cancer cells and not at all affect normal cells. The thing that you will find one treatment that's going to cure everything, that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in my life. And I even don't think biologically it's going to happen. But being one brick on the wall to shield from cancer, yes, that's what we are. And that's why we created combination strategies where you use a mix of chemotherapy and an antibody, or you use an antibody and a cell therapy, or you use a small molecule cytotoxic and an antibody. You can play a lot of synergies around and improve the outcome. And there's a very perfect example with a disease called multiple myeloma, where back in the days, 30 years ago, you would have just chemotherapy and that was it. Today, you can have up to 4 or 5 drugs that you combine together and that will keep patient cancer-free for sometime many years on a disease that people will die in less than 6 months, 30 years ago. So this is part of the progress that we are making by understanding the biology and the science and being able to find the best possible treatment for a specific type of cancer, and even sometimes for a specific patient, which is what we call personalized medicine, which is initially cell therapy was the epitome of personalized medicine, where we will take the cells of a patient, immune cells of a patient, engineer them, and bring them back to the patient to try to recognize the cancer and kill it. We are doing something somewhat similar, but instead of using the cell of the patient, we use healthy cells from universal donors. And then we are engineering them and bringing them to patients after. So it comes with other difficulties that we have to manage, but it also allows us to have the cells immediately available.
Wow, it's quite very, very powerful the way you describe it. And what about even for, let's say, the investors and, like you said, partners, what about the business side of it? What's the business model behind here? And as a CEO with this mission and vision, how does now the business side of it work for someone who's coming to invest money into this?
Well, yes. So there are multiple ways of doing it. There are very complicated business models that are going to show you how much money you can make by treating cancer. First, the goal is to keep the patients cancer-free, and sometimes you need to repeat treatment. Cell therapy currently is doing one dose, and then you hope for the cure. I still believe that there are things that we can offer the cancer-free status, but we can still do that model. We can also do multi-dosing, which we are investigating, particularly with a technology like ours. But what I would say to simplify, and for whoever is interested, and if they are savvy on the business modeling, they will quickly understand, our approach should allow us to target the overall oncology business and not just the subset of cell therapy, because we are trying to make an off-the-shelf product that will be available immediately to every type of cancer that will be expressing the target that we are focusing on. So you have hundreds of thousands of new cases of cancer every year. And even if you just treat 1 or 2% of those successfully, you are talking about billions of dollars in potential revenue. And when I say billions of dollars, not by having a drug at $500,000, by having a drug that will be within the price of the current cancer drugs. So yes, the cancer drugs are expensive, but there's a thing about what do we mean by expensive? Is it like $1 million? Is it $100,000? Is it $200,000? Well, it could be somewhere in between. But to me, the expensive drug is the one that doesn't work. Because if you pay a lot of money and it doesn't work, then it's a waste. But if you have a drug that works well, and if you have to find a way to cover the cost, or to us as a drug developer reduce the cost so it can be more affordable to more people, then there's still a pretty sizable business case, because like I said, you have several hundred thousands and even potentially millions of patients affected by cancer every year, new cases, and some diseases still have no real treatment beyond chemotherapy. So there's a lot to get to. And we believe that our company could generate, if we are successful, obviously, in having several solid tumor and a few hematologic tumor with approval, you're talking about 5, 10, 15 billion revenue a year, potentially, with this type of product. Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 15? It's impossible to say at this stage, but the market is there because the oncology market is in the multiple $100 billion. So it's globally. So it's a really pretty sizable market. The key thing is, how do we get to that market? And the first step is validate the science, validate clinically, and then get the approval across the multiple countries to be able to commercialize.
Wow. So that's for the investors out there or the future partners, that's the type of thing that they're looking at. You've been recognized for your decisive leadership within the amount of years and the dedication you've put in. Can you talk about what it takes to be a decisive leader? What does that entail?
So first, thank you for saying about my decisive recognition. I just think, in all fairness, I always try to be humble facing what I'm doing. At the end of the day, we're trying to build a cancer treatment for patients that are in the biggest distress that you can ever think. And so it's absolutely not about me. It's even not about our company or even not about our team. It's about what we do with what we decided to move forward with. And as a leader, for me, I am no one without my people around me. But I'm also no one without the ones that are benefiting eventually from what we're doing. Because every time we succeed or fail, it's a feedback that we are receiving from the ones that are using our treatment. So of course, before creating Enkilt, I worked in different companies. I had 2 projects actually when I was in big pharma that I set up. I left before the approval, but I set up the strategy and all the clinical program for it to be approved, and those got approved right after I left that particular job. But it's always about the patient. What we're doing has to be about the patient. Yes, of course, it's the business case and it's all this, but it's all about the patients. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are going to benefit or not. And if we fail them, what is the point of leadership? Doesn't matter. So I always try to put myself a little bit back and say, yes, of course, I'm the CEO. I'm the one talking. I'm the one that is presenting. I'm the one that is, trying to convince people on how important it is what we're doing. But it is only going to matter if we cross the finish line. The other thing also that I will emphasize, this is more a management style, is that the way I manage my teams or the way I try to build things is I want to empower people. I want people to be responsible. I'm clearly not the smartest person in the room, and I shouldn't. I have people around me that are way better than me on different aspects. My job is to assemble the right people around me to have the A team. And once we have the A team, you know, I don't believe in the fact that someone can be good at everything. We all have our weaknesses. We just don't like to talk about it, but we all have our weaknesses. So what matters to me is that, you know, am I a good scientist? Where I understand science, but I have a CSO that is a brilliant scientist. So I can 100% rely on whatever he says. I trust him with everything he gives me. So I challenge him sometime, but he's way better on that. That's what I'm looking for. When I'm going to work on the financial side, I'm going to want to have someone that is a top-notch finance person because I understand finance. I can manage it a little bit, but I'm not a CFO. And then it's all about empowering and trusting your people. And together we will make a difference. And I could just sit and look at them work. And if they're doing a great work, I have an easy job because I just have the best team to deliver. So it's a little bit caricatural, but this is really the mindset I always had. If you empower your people, they feel dedicated, they feel valued, and they want to be part of it, and they deliver. And I will see it with my scientists when I see the incredible work they did in the past 4 years with very limited resource, even sometimes a few months without pay and taking shares instead of pay, or taking delayed payment for their salaries and whatever, but because they believed in it. This can only happen if you give them purpose and if they feel that what they're doing is going to make a difference. And for me, the best way to do this is to empower them and make them actors and not just followers.
Very, very powerful. I think I like how you've talked about empowering them and getting out of their way, like you said, right? It's, you know, empowering them with that and then kind of letting them, like your scientists, do their thing. In just a business in general, I know I've kind of asked a similar question, but just in business for CEOs and entrepreneurs who are maybe starting out in their journey, how do you navigate around tough moments? How do you navigate around uncertainty? How do you navigate around telling your team, hey, I don't think we're going to make pay run, you know, this month. I don't know if we can keep our head above water. Like, you know, those moments where it's like, you know, will we make it? How do you go through that uncertainty?
Yeah. So first, I didn't put any makeup, so you probably see my dark circles on there. You don't sleep a lot. I'm not gonna lie. But more seriously, it's all about planning. It's all about anticipation. You shouldn't be surprised by something coming to you. Yes, of course, you can always have a curveball coming to you. It always happen. You know, this is the business in general, life in general is about this. You know, there are always things happening that you didn't see coming. But have a plan, stick to your plan, and be ready to flex and to adjust the plan if you hit a bump or if you hit a wall. I mean, if you hit a bump, sometimes you can go through the bump, it hurts, and then you said, or you go around the bump. Sometimes you have a wall, and you said that if you know that wall is coming, you are responsible if you didn't anticipate and find a plan B, C, and D to be able to go around. Easier to say than to do, of course, but I think the way I do, particularly within my team, is transparency. Don't tell them things that are not true. Our finances currently are not fantastic. Everybody's aware of it in the team. We all know that the money is tight and that maybe in a few weeks we'll have to take some difficult decision, or maybe not. Maybe we'll have money coming in. Hopefully, we have some things ongoing. But maybe we'll have to go through a period. We did that actually earlier this year after this setback that I mentioned earlier with a lead investor dumping us at the finish line and decided not to invest at the day of signing the deal. We ended up with no money where we were like expecting to have like $2 million. And so that was a huge setback. We had to take some tough decision of, putting things on hold for a moment to kind of catch up, figure out how we're going to activate the plan B that we had and make it work. So I think planning is essential. You need to have scenarios in mind. You cannot just believe that everything is going to go smoothly. You need to have the best case scenario, but you need to be ready for the worst case scenario. And if you are ready in your mind already because it has been set and agreed upon with the leadership and eventually the board, the day it happens, then you can just focus on operating it. Nobody's going to freak out because like, oh, look, like we don't have money anymore. How are we going to pay our bills? Well, we have a plan. We're going to start, we had moments we had to ask for delayed payment, and it was already planned that if we reach that point and we don't have money, we need to ask for delayed payment, and we obtained delayed payment. And then when the money came in, we just paid back our dues, and the people say, well, you said you would do it, you did it. Yes. And so planning is essential, and always be aware that whatever you plan is going to change. Because something is going to go and mess up with it. So be flexible, be ready to be challenged, but don't give up at the first bump. It's hard. I mean, listen, I say it's no secret for everybody. I have not taken a paycheck since I started this company. It was my choice because I want to focus on the science and be sure that science is going to go. Of course, I cannot continue endlessly like this. And it's very clear to us that at some point we need to make this sustainable so I can get my paycheck and everybody can have a comfortable pay for the great work they're doing. Everything was done with a plan and with a purpose, but also was mapped out. We knew since the beginning that this will be like this, and nobody could be surprised. We knew it will be tough. Maybe not as tough as it had been, I admit, but we've been almost dying and then coming back and then thriving for 6 months, 9 months, and then having another setback. That's the job in biotech, early stage of a CEO. That's what it is. I was talking to just a friend for lunch that I had. He's a CSO of another biotech. And he was telling me, he said, like, I'm currently on the high, but 2 months ago, I thought that we would close shop. And it's like, literally, this is our life. We have to manage our emotions. And I would encourage everybody, first, think twice before going there because it's going to drain you. It's fantastic, but it's going to drain you. Second, when you feel good, enjoy good times and save some time with your loved ones and with the people that you feel good with, because the day works are difficult. So find ways of getting away from it. Step out. Allow yourself to take a day off and forget about it if you can for a day. Do something else and get back with a fresh head. It's very important.
I think just the way you said that with the CSO you were speaking to a few days ago, they thought they were down and out. And then, and I think that's just really the reality of even just also business in general. I think that's quite a powerful analogy. And, I've got a question for you real quick. And I can imagine that time, the investor pulling out in the last minute. I mean, my goodness. Number one, how did that feel? I know that's a tough question. And then number two, why are you delusional? Why are you going through this, Raphaël, all these years? Why are you crazy enough to go through all this pain, all this struggle? You could potentially just go and settle for a job somewhere and, be comfortable and live a comfortable life. Why are you going through all this madness?
Yeah. I thought you would give me the answer. Well, few things. It's really worth it. It's part of the purpose that I have in life. I would say, I always repeat to some people, if I wanted to just make money, I would have stayed in big pharma. I had a very comfortable position. I was making a lot of money, but I was lacking purpose at some point. Second, there's just the fact that this is a real challenge. This is the challenge of my life, is that am I going to be able to convert? And I may not be able to convert. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. It's still worth it. The amount of things that I'm learning every day in this job, every day I have a new challenge coming to me. Every day I face a question where I'm like, how am I going to answer that question? Every day I meet people that are incredibly smart or sometimes incredibly tough. But in any case, I take something away from it. I feel like I become a better person no matter what. And I feel like I also bring my piece to the puzzle on saying, if one patient, even just one, ever receives the drug that we're trying to develop and has a successful outcome from it, I will be the happiest man on earth. And so maybe it's never going to happen, but we would have tried. And I also strongly believe that the work we are doing, maybe it's not me that's gonna be successful with it. Maybe in 5 years, someone else will leverage the work that we have done and will find a solution that we didn't find or that we couldn't pull off. If I don't have funding, I can have the most brilliant idea. It's not gonna go anywhere because I need money to convert that idea. And currently, times are tough. Hopefully it's going to get slightly better, I hope, in 2026. And hopefully someone is going to see what we see and say, hey, listen, we're going to help you. We're going to go for it. Okay. I think the experience, I keep saying the end game is extremely important, but the journey is as important as the end game. I dedicated my life to my work. I spend way too much time working, but it's also because I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie. If you put me, I love going to the beach, but after half an hour, I need to do something else because I'm bored. So I need to find something. So yeah, I'm going to go snorkel. Then I'm going to find a group of people and play beach volley or whatever. But what I'm saying is that I'm a hyperactive person. That's the way I live. And it's part of my life to try to solve complex problems. And maybe this one is the most complex I ever tried to solve. And I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but you can be sure that I will do everything possible to make it successful. And like I say, if someone needs to be smarter than me to do it, then fine, we'll find that person and they're going to bring it to the finish line. I would have done my part. And then I can go on something else, maybe. But it's really about the drive. It's the fact that, I could be a billionaire tomorrow. I'm not sure we'll be happier compared to what I'm doing. Easy to say because I'm not a billionaire, but it's. I think it's really about the purpose that I put behind the things I'm doing.
And I like a few keywords: purpose, but also the journey. The journey is where the destination is, and what you're going through. So let me ask you, how do you find time to balance, time also with your partner and things like that while you're fighting such a big mission and vision? It's so easy to, even for me, it's so hard. I'm always here working because, like you said, I love it. But yeah, how do you balance that and then family?
I'm not gonna lie, it's tricky, particularly because she's also in the business, and so she also has. She's a senior executive in a biotech and whatever, different than what I'm doing. But sometimes we are on calls until 10 p.m. Two different offices. I'm gonna go back to what I said with the business planning. Just plan things. We plan like next week, or actually in the coming days. I just have my kids joining us. They are in college and they just join us to spend a week with us. So we're going to try to slow down during that week to be with them and spend time together and do a few things together. They know that we are hyperactive, so they know that we're going to be working here and there, but we're going to save time for us together to spend time together. We have, we have actually literally moments early next year where we have things with friends that we want to do, and we are booking, like literally holding the calendar and say, these 4 days, I'm going to be doing this. Of course, if there is something important, I'm still going to be on call because you're always on call, but literally planning moments for you to feel good. And on a daily basis, a thing that I'm bad at and that I used to be good, but I'm bad, is save time for rest and save time for exercise. Because actually, for example, when I go for a 30-minute run, it's not about the performance of running. It's that during that 30 minutes, I empty my brain, I listen to music. And most of the time when I come out of it, one of the things that is spinning in my head suddenly materializes and I say, oh, of course I should do this. So disconnecting the brain by doing whatever activity is essential, and nothing better than having activity with your loved ones to disconnect. So planning remains part of the thing. Huh? I keep saying this, but it's part of the thing.
I like that. My dad also likes to talk about going for a walk and doing things like that too. Thing. And out of curiosity, how many children do you have, and how old were you when you had your first child?
I have 2 kids, and I think I was 29 when I had my first one.
That's a good age.
No,
Why 29?
no, 31. Sorry, 31 when I had my first one.
31. Okay. Was there a specific reason why you had a first child at 31?
Because I did long studies. And I didn't want to have a kid before I could have a job to pay my bills. So, I started working in '98. So when I was 29, and then I had my first kid at 31. Yeah, so that's kind of logical. And I have two boys that both just graduated from college, and one is going to continue, and the other one is starting working in January. So it's weird actually to see your kids reaching the place where they're going to start working.
Do any of them want to follow in your footsteps?
One tried. He tried in college. He went to do cell biology because he was excited about the concept of what I was doing, cell therapy and all this. And after 6 months, he said, Dad, this is way too difficult and too much work. I'm going to do something else. And he pivoted to something else where he is extremely successful. He's doing sound engineering because he's a musician also. And so he just graduated from the technician level, and now he's going to continue to be a sound engineer. His job is going to be to manage recording studios for music. So that's what he's looking at. So he completely pivoted out of the biology and of all these things to go something else in a very successful way.
If I was your child or your grandchild, what advice would you give me about life? About, let's say, I'm looking at my future. I don't know what I want to do. What advice would you give me?
I haven't thought about this yet. Prioritize your energy on things that are making you and your loved one feeling good. And then enjoy life, and enjoying life is not just spend a ton of money on going on an expensive trip. Enjoy moments. Sometimes very simple moments can be really very impactful. So don't live like it's your last day. I don't believe in those things like, oh yeah, live like it's your last day, live fully, whatever. No. Be mindful of what you're doing, but enjoy moments in life. Plan for moments of pleasure and good vibe and all this, because there's so many things that are coming to you in today's world, particularly the kids today. They're so bombarded with so many things that are bad with social media and all this. I was lucky. I grew up in a time where there was one channel on TV, so I spent my time playing with friends doing completely crazy things and nobody knew about it, and that was great. Today, every time you do something, there are 50 cell phones that videotaped you, that whatever, and that are going to comment and have whatever thing that is even not what you're doing. So yeah, save good moments for your loved one and remember to enjoy. But I always believe that hard work pays off. So it's a balance between hard work and pleasure. Or some would call it, like when I was in college, it was work hard, party hard. It's another way of saying it.
That's another way to say it. Awesome. Well, Raphael, I want to thank you so much for your time today. You've really, really been amazing. I want to play a quick game, a very quick game. We can do a few words. I will say a word, and then whatever comes to your mind, you say whatever word comes to your mind, and then I can get you to explain it. Okay? CEO.
Responsibility.
Explain.
You're the one in charge. You're the one that everybody's looking up to. So you're responsible. You have to be.
Biotech.
Can I say two?
Okay, I'll let you pass.
One is hope. The other one is toughness.
Ooh, explain both of them.
Well, hope is because I believe that biotech is the future of medicine, and I mean it. Pharma is great at deploying things that biotech is creating. That's the way I'm going to say. I know some of my pharma friends are not going to like what I say, but the evidence is there. The best drug ever, or most of the best drug, the most impactful, came from small biotechs initially. Toughness, because it's a freaking tough world. It's really difficult. I knew it, but I'm not the kind of person that is like, oh, everything is great and whatever. No, it's really tough. It's a tough job. It's a tough environment, but it gives hope.
Love it. Strategy.
Essential.
Explain.
What we do is so difficult and complex with so many intrications. You need to have a very clear strategy. Although strategy has to be actionable. So strategy never goes away of tactics. If you don't have a tactical plan to implement your strategy, it's useless. But it is essential. It is the foundation of a vision that's going to bring you somewhere.
Love it. Leadership.
Leadership, accountability. Because being a leader is being accountable. Becoming a leader is being ready to be accountable.
Value creation.
Holy grail.
I like that.
Value, you can have a lot of things behind. Huh? It can be monetized. It can be also soulful. It can be, there's a lot of things you can put behind.
Visionary.
Visionary. I have two ways of responding. One that is a little weird and one that is maybe more serious. Visionary is about, I would say it's actually ambitious. It's related to ambition, but ambition is not personal ambition necessarily. Ambition could be to try to solve complex things.
Resilience.
Daily life. Yeah, daily life.
Daily life, to be resilient. Raphael, thank you so much for your time today. It was a really good conversation. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, man. This was really, really good. I can't wait for people to watch this. And like I said, within our podcasting network, with all the people, if this resonates with anyone and we can send it and help, find a partnership or funding, we've been doing that also on a commission basis. Sometimes we're helping people get opportunities. So, if someone comes to our mind and we can refer you, that could be fantastic. And we can use this podcast as leverage.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I also enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. I like the dynamic that you put behind. And I am just hopeful that if one person feels that what we're doing makes sense, and it could even just inspire them to try to do something also on their own to make a difference, I will consider that this podcast would have been a good success. It's all about trying to inspire people. It's not just the end game, but the more we have inspired people, the more chance to achieve we have as a society.
Exactly. And just one more word that came to my mind: legacy.
You kept the difficult one for me because it's the one I have a hard time with. I would just say impact, because the legacy is only worth if it has an impact.
We should leave it there. Yes, you're right. Impact. Thank you so much, Raphael. You have a good one, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, what's wrong? Bro, I'm stressed out. I'm running my business. I've got to serve my customers, but I need more customers coming in. I can't keep relying on word of mouth. Why don't you just use ETS Raphaël Media? Who? Well, with AI now, what they do is they go in, get your perfect clients, bring them in front of you. So all I got to do is run my business and he brings me opportunities. Think about it. You speak to 3,000 of your ideal customers, convert 1% of that 3,000. That's 30 people. 30 people in a room with you. Can you convert that? Of course I'll close them. I'm good at what I do. I just don't have time to be going and looking for my perfect client. Focus on what you love doing and let them bring you customers. When you win, they win, commission, cha-ching. Sujiro Rubasha, huh? Yeah, Sujiro Rubasha. Go and Google them, man. Come on, take it to the bank.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.